boss, bitch. You know, for sure. You're now listening to the Mind of an Terry Smooth. I'm the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And we're going to talk about the time there was one star in the motherfucking sky. That's right. It was a time there was a motherfucking one star in the goddamn sky. Now, this is almost like the birth of the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, as far as we can perceive it from our space and location. Because there had to have been a spirit or a state of being that traveled in a specific space and location, and all the offsprings receive hand-me-down informations to even be aware of what the fuck is going on. So that's letting us know in our space and location, this is the birth of the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. Also, this is the motherfucking spirit that all the motherfucking Elohims and fallen angels and shit was following and shit. So this is what y'all need to know also. Because throughout this video, this is what you're going to understand. When we start to get into things like someone being a Satan or an oppressor or an opposer in terms, or Satan itself, you're going to start to understand that this energy signature has nothing to do with negative or positivity. You see what I'm saying? This is just basically an energy signature that a spiritual being did first. Now, for the most part, once we get into space, positioning, and location and state of being, here's how we get separate and what's relative to us, and what could be negative to one state of being and what could be positive to another state of being based upon positioning and space and location. But for the most part, it's just a spirit that had actually done that first. So this has nothing to do with if that spirit was right or wrong. This is just an energy signature that other spirits choose to follow. And that's what I'm talking about, the Elohim and fallen angels and shit like that. But we're going to get into this now. We got a few disclaimers. Y'all know I got some disclaimers. This is what you need to know. I don't care about what scientists have taught you, because they can only take you so far, logically, using the left brain. But the best way I can explain this from a right brain point of view, and from a fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional aspect, is this. Light isn't something you see. Light is something you do. I repeat, light ain't something you see. Light is something you do. Now, scientists can only take you so far. They only take you to like half of the fact, to the point that if you was to go do your scientific investigations, you will realize that you're receiving light. And then that light hits your retina, and then you get to decipher whatever that light is. But for the most part, that's as far as you're going to get with science. But if you really want to understand what light is, you know light is a form of information. Now, first of all, you need to understand it's a form. So it's a form, and it's a form of information. A body of light is like a form of information, a form of consciousness, an emitting of an imagination. It's a dream. It's a consciousness. You see what I'm saying? So that's what light is. Now, light isn't conscious on its own. Light is being controlled. This is why you are in a light body. This is why all forms of light hold energy. This is why photons hold energy, because light is like a prism. It traps energy. So for you to be a state of being, your spirit, your space has to go into a bottle, into a light, into a prism, in order to live out your personality through that shape and form. And depending on how light or heavy that light form you go into, that's going to depend on how long you get to experience that dream or imagination. But you have to create this light body, and it start off as very light in weight, and the more you pay attention to it and give it your energy, the more it can create a vortex and vibrate very low and become solid and become a realm of reality, aka a shape and form you can go into to live your state of being out. You see what I'm saying? So for the most part, that's just getting you an understanding of light. Now let's talk about the first star. Now, here's what you need to understand, right? As the first star from a fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensional aspect, the way y'all even look at stars is wrong. I know y'all like to look at it like how y'all see it and how y'all have learned, but as Archangel Uriel, I need you to understand this. At this time, see, I wasn't a star at this time yet. I was just a state of being. We was all in a state of being. The first star to us will look like a body of water. Like, I know that's hard to understand. Like, I really don't have no other way of explaining it to y'all. But to use y'all words. But the only word I can use for y'all to kind of picture what I'm saying is this. Is the first star don't look like how y'all think stars look like. Even the stars today, from a fourth, if you was in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension like me, it looked like a string. It looked like a body of water, and you could be amongst a body of water. Like you could be connected with a body of water, or you could separate yourself in your own bubble, and then that bubble floats off. And then this is where we're gonna get the concept of the first star and the creation of the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension. But before we get there, I just need y'all to understand, like, the stars are really like bodies of water. And they rotate or vortex in their own secluded area. So for the most part, look at it like this. The first star, if you was to live within that being, that state of being, and you was an offspring, aka a spirit that had followed that spirit in that space and location, so you are unexperienced there, so you are a lesser spirit there. If you are within that being at that time, say we look at life how we look at it now, and you think you're on an earth, and then it was just only one star that you see in the sky. It won't be perceived as you got oceans or rivers. It will be perceived as every day you witness the water cycle. Like it'll rain every day. Water would evaporate and come down every day. It would, like, you know what I'm saying? It would go up and down so it almost be like you would be in that system of the evaporation, rain. And it do that every day, maybe every hour. It was like that. So you was caught in a spin cycle. If you was looking at it the way how you looking at it now, right? I'm trying to give you that perspective. But at this time, this was just one star itself. So think about it like this. Even when you look at today's time, right? You got the sun rising in the east, so the sun goes towards the west, and then all bodies of water. Oh, I don't care where you go in the world. River flows and oceans travel to the east. So while the sun is traveling to the west, the water is traveling to the east. So that's kind of letting you know how the water cycle even started in this space and location we are in. I'm trying to give y'all a concept of this though, but since it ain't no science book or no other man or woman came with some logic science to tell y'all this, and I'm Archangel Uriel, y'all want to look at me as crazy. But I guarantee you I'm telling the goddamn truth because I lived this as a motherfucking experience. So the way you could correlate what I'm talking about now, the way you could correlate what I'm talking about to today's time is you could look at the ocean and the river flows. All water travel from the most hot spot and then it goes to the cold spot. So it would start in a hemisphere where the water is warm, but not only that, we can know where those hemispheres is at. So I think if you want to look, see, I'm not good with names. I say Brazil or some shit like that. But say the water start now, for the most part, it's a body of water, right? Now, it's going to travel. Now, it travels from like a southern type of atmosphere, right? But it's getting dragged by the sun. So it's like the sun is rising from the south to the east to northern, and then it sets on the west. And like the water follows it. So as the sun goes from the southern and rises on the east, the water is coming from the west going to the southern. As the sun goes to the northern, the water goes to the east. And it's like a whole, like, you see what I'm saying? It's like a cycle. So we getting old water frames and old water consciousness. So for an example, this is why they say it's something in the water. Because that's actually right. Water holds memory. Water holds the Akashic records. If you put a certain emotion and passion and feeling onto a body of water, it's going to conceal that. So look at that locational wise. When you got oceans and rivers in certain cities and locations, all the waters that got drugged from the southern hemisphere to the eastern hemisphere, right, is now settling in the western hemisphere. So if you want to take that even to the to America, let's just look at it from a small scale in America, right? The West Coast are dealing with old spirits, old souls that been here a lot longer than a lot of beings that's here now. And from the Eastern, they're always dealing with new spirits, new souls. So even though the water on the West Coast is a lot of old souls and spirits and things of that nature that came from the East, they're setting up shop in the West now. A lot of West Coast people pick up the energy of old gods. You know what I'm saying? I want to come back and reclaim space and location. And Eastern always got new gods trying to come in and do space and locations and things of that nature. Then they eventually come old, then it gets recycled in a cycle. But that's getting into another video because I don't want to get too 3D for y'all, because this video is for my soul group and 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensional beings. Now let's talk about so like I said, the first star. Now how did a star became the first star? And coming from the 7th, 8th, and 9th dimension, how did it slip and fall into the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension? So here's how it done that, right? Now at this time, we all state of beings. We all spirits. We all this, that, and the third, right? Now, but we all connected. So you could kind of look at us all just like space. But one space, not space within space. Because it wouldn't be no situation for you to have a house next to a house, a building next to a building, if there wasn't no such thing as space within space. And you walk into one house and walk into another building, they feel totally different. So this is kind of giving you the concept on the 3rd dimensional level that the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensional levels actually exist, but in actuality. You see what I'm saying? Now, at this time, think about this. Think about it from yourself. Think about when you feel separate, right? And you feel lost to everything. Nobody's on your side. You want to do something for yourself. You're tired of being connected. You need time and space. Key word, time and space to yourself. Time, space. You got space, time, matter. Frequency, vibration, energy. Unconscious, subconscious, conscious. See what I'm saying? Spirit, soul, body. So just think about when you want to be separate to yourself, right? So you become separate. Now that's a place of darkness. Because once you're in a place of darkness, you ain't got nobody to call. You by yourself. You don't want to call nobody, or you want to be secluded to yourself and things of that nature. So that's a place of darkness. I don't want y'all to look at this like evil yet. This is not a form of evil. I just need y'all to understand this concept. Now that's a place of darkness. Now when you're in a place of darkness, right, you're not listening to nobody. Nobody can give you a sense of a concept. You can only create your own direction at that point. AKA, mom, dad, or grandma, granddad, I'm leaving. I'm doing what the fuck I want to do. You got your own idea. You got your own imagination. You no longer want to be up under the space of others and ruled up under their rules, because their space may have been vortexing a lot longer than yours in that space and location. You see what I'm saying? So what you need to understand is this. That's an energy signature. So there was a state of being. There was a being that did this energy first, that just wanted to be separate. You know what I'm saying? Now it's nothing good or bad about that, but it just wanted to be separate. So as this state of being became separate, it became lost. Now in lostness, it has no form of direction. So what happens? You have to create your own form of direction. Now when you create your own form of direction, it starts off as an idea, as an imagination, as a thought form, as a concept, as a way that you see yourself. Once you create that, you created something outside of yourself, because it's no longer a part of you. It's detached from you. It's something that you are observing now. So even though it came from you, it is a piece of you, but it's not you anymore. It's an offspring. So it's one of your lightest bodies. So this will be like the first light, the first let there be light, the first imagination, right? But it's really the first bubble, because in this realm, from a 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensional aspect, you can look at all of us like a body of water. But just look at a bubble that became light for some reason, and it floated up out of the ocean, and it's a bubble in its own space and realm now. Now it can become its own ocean within that bubble, but outside of that bubble, it's in a world of separateness. Just trying to get y'all to understand some shit right now, right? That bubble is a form that state of being is inside, that spirit is inside. And it made that bubble. It created that bubble. You see what I'm saying? It made itself secluded. It made itself separate. So it made a form. Now in this realm of reality, from a 7th, 8th, and 9th dimension, as us all just being state of beings, there is no form. Now the moment that state of being had an idea, it became a form that automatically puts it in the 6th, 5th, and 4th dimension. It automatically makes it lower. Lower down. It automatically makes it go in a piece of its own creation. So it within itself. But in this realm of reality, that's how it's perceived. So this will be the first star, the first rotation, the first body of water, basically. So it's a secluded bubble, body of water, vortexing and shaping in whatever state of being that spirit was in when it created that first thought form, that first imagination. You know what I'm saying? Now, once it went into that, right, it is aware of itself. So now, this automatically creates 2 points. Because if you are a state of being, but then you went into an awareness, you went into one of your imaginations, you went into a thought form of yourself, right? So now you can see your own reflection. You can, when you think about yourself, you see yourself as something, right? That's where it starts. In this realm, these are beings that are aware of this. You see what I'm saying? So, now you are aware of yourself. That automatically makes an opposition. That automatically makes you your own Satan or whatever like that. But now as a state of being, you got 2 sides of you. You got two positions to play that automatically creates a third person. Because now, as that first state of being, creating that first conscious awareness of yourself, that first let there be light, your moon body, you know what I'm saying, that first imagination to go into, to be aware of your state of being, right? That's 2 positions now. Now, since that's 2 positions, this position of your state of being automatically becomes a form by default because you become third person because you got 2 spaces to go into. So if you could go into this state of being as a form, but also still be your true state of being without being that form, that's automatically 2 spaces to move into in the 7th, 8th, and 9th dimension, and then by default, you become in third person. Now, by you becoming in third person, that makes your original state of being a form now. So that state of being you are is a form relating to what you just created to experience that form, and then that creates more experiences, more density, aka you have been brought down to the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimension, and now you're still that original thing, but since you made your state of being an actual form now, that original thing is lower down to being a state of being, and the state of being is in that form to live out its state of being. So here's where you get the Trinity, and here's where you get the first 3 stars now, the first 3 alignments, because once those correlate with each other, they end up becoming physical, but you end up only seeing 2 stars with one spirit creating it. I mean, one spirit controlling it, right? So you end up seeing the state of being, and you end up seeing the star, aka you're seeing a body of water rotate. And when it's rotating, it's leaving its marks. And when it's rotating over those same areas again, that's creating more density and weight, shape and form, to the point that now you got 2 forms rotating around each other, or what it will appear to be. So now this is where you get the opposition, the creation of 2 stars. Then from that, the orb in the middle creates the third orb, aka the third star. Now here's where you get the creation of the Holy Trinity. And with this Holy Trinity, we can start creating shapes and forms that got 3 concepts to it. A state of being, the shape and form that the state of being is in, and the creation of both of those together. You see what I'm saying? So this is where you get going into the spirit, becoming an individual soul. Now, this person coming an individual, that's why the soul moves like fluid, moves like water, moves like music, the blood flow, the streams, because it's the second experience. It's not just you being all of us being a state of being. You wanted to be your own state of being, so you became an individual soul, an individual vortex, an individual spiral. You became like your own bubble. So this is the first moon. Now with that moon, you created, that was your first feminine body you created for yourself. Then you created that masculine body for yourself, the awareness to be seen. And then that's the sun and your moon. Then once they vortex with each other, they create that first sun, and then that's the Holy Trinity. And then you correlate that, and then you create your other solar parts. You see what I'm saying? So, for the most part, when we talk about the time it was only 1 star, this was a motherfucking spirit. That motherfucker created its own imagination first, its own shape and form, and all the other motherfucking spirits wanted to do that shit too. They got tired of motherfucking following orders and concepts too, and wanted to have their own space, their own house, their own location. Now, at this time, this is not looked at as bad or good, but once shit started becoming too far down the line, it started becoming bad. because people started forgetting themselves. They started losing themselves in the light. They start forgetting who they was, to the point that they go into another body and have to ask questions like, damn, who the fuck am I? So then they have to go to history and past shit to realize who they are, but then they end up becoming even more lost because they end up thinking that who they reading about is somebody else. And you're reading about yourself. You're just so lost. Now you think you're reading about somebody else, and you become even more lost. So y'all just need to get that in motherfucking mind. So the first star here, you know what I'm saying? It looked like a motherfucking body of water. That's what you need to understand. And from a 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensional aspect, that's what the fuck you are. Flight boss, bitch. Goddamn air.